May Walker stared at the torn application form she found in Helen's, her mother-in-law's trash. Her hands shook. Helen had ripped it up, her dream, her future. A woman working as a carpenter? That's a joke, Helen once sneered. But May always knew wood can be cut, damaged, but still grow strong and be beautiful. So could she. That day, something inside her cracked, and something far stronger quietly began to take root. A year later, May Walker sat at the edge of her bed, surrounded by the remnants of her late husband's life. The afternoon light spilled across the room, casting long, silent shadows. She was methodically sorting through Tom's clothes. Her fingers lingered on his work shirts, still faintly smelling of cedar and sawdust. A wave of loneliness washed over her as she realized the insurance money was nearly gone, leaving her and her teenage daughter Emily with an uncertain future. Reaching into an old duffel bag, May pulled out Tom's work clothes and tools. Inside a pocket of his utility belt, she discovered a worn pencil and a yellowed note with his handwriting. "We have to build our own house someday, remember?" Tears welled in her eyes as memories flooded back, weekends spent on small repair projects together, Tom's smile, the comforting scent of wood, the joy of creating something with their hands. "Our dream," she whispered, clutching the note to her chest. "Building our home together." May hugged his sawdust-scented work shirt, her mind racing with possibilities and a silent decision taking root in her heart. The next morning, May found a community college brochure in her mailbox. As she sipped coffee at her kitchen table, the headline "A Carpentry Introduction Course for Women" caught her eye. The coincidence seemed too perfect to ignore. She was still studying the pamphlet when Emily returned from school. "What are you looking at?" Emily asked, peering over her mother's shoulder. "A vocational training program for carpentry," May replied hesitantly. "Carpentry? You?" Emily's expression registered disbelief. "Remember how happy we were when your father and I worked on house repairs together?" May asked, her voice soft with remembrance. Emily's face registered surprise, but she said nothing before retreating to her room. Alone again, May carefully filled out the application form, her heart pounding with equal measures of fear and determination. The memorial gathering for the one-year anniversary of Tom's death was held at Helen Walker's luxurious mansion. May and Emily arrived slightly late, stepping into a world of high ceilings, antique furniture, and perfectly polished silverware, a place where May had always felt out of place. Helen Walker, at 72, maintained her perfect composure despite having lost her only son. Her silver hair was impeccably styled, her outfit expensive and tasteful. She greeted May and Emily with cool politeness. "You're late," Helen noted disapprovingly. "Traffic," May offered as explanation, feeling instantly judged. During dinner, Helen turned the conversation toward May's future plans, her voice carrying clearly to all the relatives gathered around the elegant dining table. "So May, what are your plans now?" "I imagine Tom's insurance money must be running low by now," Helen said, her voice sweet but her eyes calculating. The room fell silent. May took a deep breath, feeling everyone's eyes on her. "I'm enrolling in a vocational school to study carpentry," she answered, her voice steadier than she felt. Helen froze momentarily, setting down her wine glass with deliberate care. "You can't be serious? A woman working as a carpenter is simply undignified. It would bring shame to this family." An uncomfortable silence descended over the dining table, broken only by a few awkward chuckles. May's cheeks burned with humiliation. It's one thing to have it as a hobby, but as a profession? Imagine if someone asks Emily what her mother does, and she has to say carpenter. "It would tarnish our family reputation," Helen continued, her voice dripping with disdain. May looked up, her voice quivering but determined. "No one is going to protect me anymore. I need to rebuild my life with my own hands. Tom would be mortified in heaven. An educated woman like you, taking up such a common trade." As they were leaving, Helen attempted to hand May a check. Use this to find a more suitable profession for a lady, she insisted. May firmly refused. I'll build everything myself, my future, my home, our dignity. May realized she hadn't heard from the vocational school about her application. When she called to inquire, they informed her they had never received it. Confused and concerned, she visited the school in person, where they kindly provided her with a new form. I'll submit this directly this time, May said, feeling a strange unease. During a weekend visit to Helen's mansion with Emily, May wandered the hallways while her daughter spent time with her grandmother. Passing by Helen's study, May noticed the door ajar. Something blue caught her eye in the wastepaper basket, a torn application form that looked familiar. Her heart racing, May reached in and retrieved the pieces, confirming her suspicions. Helen had somehow intercepted and destroyed her application. Just then, Helen appeared in the doorway, their eyes meeting over the torn paper. "What is this?" May asked, her hands shaking with anger and betrayal. "I did it for your own good," Helen replied defensively. "I couldn't let Emily's mother become known as a carpenter." May felt rage boiling inside her as she clutched the torn pieces. Without another word, she left the room, her whole body trembling. That night, after completing a new application form at home, May sat in her living room holding Tom's work shirt. Through the window, stars glittered in the night sky as she made her promise. "Tom, I'm going to do it. I'll build the house we dreamed of, with my own hands. Even without you here, I'll find my own path forward." The wind rustled through the trees outside, almost like a whispered response of approval from somewhere beyond. On her first day at the vocational school, May Walker stood frozen at the entrance of the workshop. Acutely aware she was the only middle-aged woman among young men and a few 20-something women. Whispers and sideways glances followed her as she found an empty workstation. The isolation was immediate and crushing. Frank Morrison, the 58-year-old instructor with weathered hands and kind eyes, demonstrated basic tool handling with gentle authority. Unlike the others who seemed casual about the lesson, May took furious notes, her determination evident in every line she wrote. During break, she stood alone, watching younger students laugh in their groups. Nobody approached her. The rejection stung, but May squared her shoulders. She wasn't there for friendship, she was there to rebuild her life. 1 week later, Frank announced to the class. "Begin," as they faced their first practical test, cutting wood in a straight line with a handsaw. May's hands trembled visibly as she positioned the saw. Despite her concentration, the blade kept veering off course. Sweat beaded on her forehead as her cut grew increasingly crooked. Snickers erupted from nearby. "Lady, you'd look better with a manicure than a hammer," a young man called out. Laughter rippled through the room. Heat rushed to May's cheeks as humiliation washed over her. She wanted to disappear but stayed rooted to the spot, Tom's memory anchoring her against the tide of shame. "Mrs. Walker," Frank said after dismissing the class, "please stay behind." After class, once they were alone and sawdust danced in the slanting afternoon light, Frank asked directly, "Why are you here?" The unexpected question broke something open in May. She found herself sharing everything: Tom's death, their dream of building together, her desperate need to create a new life with her own hands. "But can I really do this?" she finished, vulnerability cracking her voice. Frank's face softened. He picked up a saw and deliberately cut a comically crooked line. "That's how I started too," he said, surprising her with his smile. "Nobody begins perfectly. The ones who struggle first often build the strongest foundation." He gently corrected her grip on the saw, his calloused hands warm against hers. "Like this," he demonstrated, guiding her through the motion. For the first time since Tom's death, May felt someone truly saw her potential. "Tomorrow," Frank said, "we'll start special sessions after class. Just us, no audience." Weeks of training had transformed a corner of May's living room into a makeshift workshop. Past midnight, she sanded wood, finding unexpected peace in the rhythmic motion, when Emily appeared in the doorway. "Mom, you're never home anymore." Her teenage face showed both hurt and anger. May set down her sandpaper. "This is our new reality, honey." "Grandma says she'll give us money," Emily countered sharply. "Why is your pride more important than us being okay?" The accusation struck May's core. Was she being selfish? "This isn't about pride," May said, meeting her daughter's eyes. "It's about keeping a promise to your father, to stand on my own feet, to build something real. Someday you'll understand." Emily turned away without another word. Dinner the next evening passed in silence, the distance between them seemingly wider than ever. At the community center during the awards ceremony, May froze in shock when her name was announced as the first female recipient of the A Newcomer Award. Walking to the stage, she found Frank at the back of the room, his quiet smile and unmistakable pride reflecting her own journey. The local newspaper ran a small article about her achievement. When Emily took it to school, something shifted between them. "My friend's mom saw your picture," Emily said that evening, a hint of pride warming her voice. "She said it was cool what you're doing." May felt a spark of hope ignite between them. That night, May found an envelope wedged in her door. Inside was a clipping about failed female carpenters, with "Is this your future?" scrawled in red pen. Helen's note read, "It's not too late to reconsider. Think of Emily." May stared at the message, doubt momentarily creeping in. Then she remembered the wood taking shape under her hands, the perfect fit of a joint, Frank's quiet encouragement, and the award she'd earned through merit alone. She crushed the envelope in her fist, her resolve hardening instead of breaking. "This is my path now," she whispered to herself, "and I will not turn back." Not long after, when her first real job opportunity came, she found herself standing inside the offices of Morrison & Sons Construction, a converted old house with worn carpet and the smell of coffee and sawdust in the air. May sat across from Robert Morrison, Frank's older brother, whose skeptical expression made her stomach knot. "Let me be straight with you, Mrs. Walker," Robert said, leaning back in his chair. "This industry isn't kind to women, especially those starting a new career at." He hesitated, not wanting to mention her age directly. 45, May supplied, meeting his gaze directly. "Yes. The work is physically demanding, clients can be difficult, and the crew might not welcome you." May took a deep breath. "I understand the challenges, Mr. Morrison. But I have reasons that matter more than the obstacles." Robert studied her for a long moment. "Frank rarely vouches for anyone, yet he speaks highly of you. That counts for something around here." He extended his hand. "We'll give you a chance. Don't make my brother look bad." On her first day at the job site, the upscale renovation project intimidated May more than she wanted to admit. Expensive marble countertops leaned against walls, and custom cabinetry waited for installation. Starting with basic tasks, cleaning up, organizing tools, carrying materials, May worked quietly but diligently. The all-male crew barely acknowledged her at first. She caught snippets of their conversations. "How long before she quits?" "I give her a week." May kept her head down and focused on her work. By the end of the first week, she'd proven herself reliable enough that the site foreman, Dave, started giving her slightly more responsibility. When they reached the interior design phase, May hesitantly offered a suggestion about the kitchen storage layout. Dave was about to dismiss her when she added, "I used to design fashion displays. It's all about making beauty functional." Surprised, Dave let her sketch her idea. Her natural eye for color and space proved unexpectedly valuable. "Well," Dave said, studying her design, "seems like an ex-designer's eye is different after all." As the renovation neared completion, the client, Mrs. Thornberry, stopped by with friends for a preview. May was installing the last of the custom shelving she'd designed. "This is absolutely wonderful," Mrs. Thornberry exclaimed. "I've never seen a female carpenter before. The storage design is brilliant, so intuitive and elegant." May was smiling at the compliment when a familiar voice cut through her moment of pride. "May? What on earth are you doing here?" Helen stood with the group of wealthy women, shock and disapproval etched on her face. The room seemed to freeze. May's hands stilled on the shelf she was securing. Helen stepped closer, her voice pitched to Carrie. "What would Tom think, seeing you like this? Covered in dust, doing manual labor like a common worker?" The words struck like physical blows. May felt her cheeks burn as everyone stared. Before she could respond, Dave stepped between them. "Ma'am," he said firmly to Helen, "May is the most detail-oriented craftsperson on our team. Everything she finishes is straighter, truer than anyone else's work." His eyes flicked to May, then back to Helen. "Maybe because her heart is straight too." Helen's face flushed with embarrassment. Without another word, she turned and left, her designer heels clicking rapidly on the hardwood floors. On completion day, Mrs. Thornberry brought champagne for the entire crew. She kept returning to the custom cabinetry and shelving May had designed. "It's like a boutique display," she marveled. "Beautiful but so practical. I've already told 3 friends they must hire you for their renovations." That evening, as the crew packed up, Dave handed May a small envelope. Inside was a business card in her name. May's vision blurred with tears as she ran her fingers over the embossed lettering. This small rectangle of paper represented more than a job, it was her new identity, proof that she had rebuilt herself from the broken pieces of her old life. "Thank you," she whispered, quickly wiping her eyes before anyone noticed. When May arrived home that night, Emily was waiting with something hidden behind her back. "Close your eyes," she instructed. May complied, and felt something being placed in her hands, a small, roughly built wooden house model. "It's for my school project," Emily explained. "We had to show our parents' profession. I made it myself, but it's not very good." May studied the imperfect little house, emotion rising in her throat. "It's beautiful," she said sincerely. "Can you teach me how to make it better?" Emily asked. That weekend, they worked together repairing a wobbly kitchen chair. As they sanded the wood, Emily asked the question May had been dreading. "Why does Grandma hate your job so much?" May considered how to answer. "Grandma comes from a different time. She believes women belong in certain places, doing certain things. So where do we belong?" Emily asked, her young face serious. May took her daughter's hand, both of them holding the wooden mallet. "We belong wherever we make our place. This isn't just about building things, it's about building lives. With these hands, I'm creating spaces where people can live and love." Something shifted in Emily's eyes, a new understanding blooming. For the first time, May felt her daughter truly seeing her. Later that Saturday afternoon, she sat quietly in a small coffee shop across from Frank. Frank had invited May for coffee, ostensibly to discuss an upcoming project. Their conversation about work gradually shifted to more personal territory. "I lost my wife to cancer 10 years ago," Frank said quietly, stirring his coffee. "Raised my 2 boys alone." May nodded, understanding flooding through her. "Being alone is terrifying at first. But you find your way," Frank added. "You've found yours." A comfortable silence settled between them, the kind that only exists between people who understand each other's pain. Frank glanced down at May's hands resting on the table. Gently, he touched one of them before quickly pulling back. "Your hands have changed," he noted. "Fewer blisters. They're craftsmen's hands now." May smiled, though inside she felt conflicted. The memory of Tom still lived in her heart, yet she couldn't deny the warm comfort of Frank's presence. She wasn't ready, but for the first time, she could imagine a future where her heart might heal too. 3 years later, a small brass plaque reading Walker and Morrison Crafts caught the morning light as May studied architectural drawings in her modest office. 3 years of dedication had transformed her from novice to respected name in local renovations. "This just arrived," Frank said, placing an envelope beside her coffee. "Bid invitation for the Lakeside Estates project." May's eyes widened. The prestigious development featured multi-million-dollar homes, far beyond anything they'd tackled. "This might be too big for us," she said, doubt in her voice. Frank's weathered face showed confidence. "You're ready, May. Your designs have something no one else offers. They're both beautiful and livable. Real people can actually exist in your spaces." May traced the invitation with her fingers, remembering that first crooked cut in woodworking class. With a deep breath, she nodded. "Let's do it." On presentation day, crystal chandeliers and leather chairs filled the luxury hotel's conference room. Developers and designers exchanged practiced smiles while May gripped her portfolio, feeling out of place despite her tailored blazer. "Just be yourself," Frank whispered. "That's what makes your work special." When her turn came, May's voice grew steadier with each slide. "I don't just build houses. I create spaces that embrace how people actually live. These homes will change over time, adapting to families as they grow." The conference room door opened mid-presentation. May faltered as Helen Walker entered with several elegantly dressed women. Unlike previous encounters, Helen simply took a seat, her expression unreadable. When May finished, architect Richard Kempson approached with genuine enthusiasm. "Your approach is refreshing. Everyone builds showpieces, but you design homes people can truly live in." A few days later, Richard's voice came through the phone with unexpected news. "Congratulations. They loved your concept. But there's something you should know, the build site is adjacent to Helen's estate." May's pencil froze mid-stroke. Adjacent to Helen's property? Did she know when she saw me present? She did. "It's complicated. I had to convince her initially, but her friends were quite insistent on seeing your work. They've been impressed by your previous projects." After hanging up, May gazed out the window. Working in Helen's shadow seemed like an emotional minefield, yet something in her welcomed the challenge, the chance to finally prove herself to the woman who had dismissed her dreams. When construction began, Helen started appearing at the site almost daily, ostensibly walking her dog. Though she rarely spoke to May, her critical gaze followed every development. As weeks passed, subtle changes appeared in Helen's behavior. She lingered longer at certain features, especially the curved staircase May had designed. Once, when she thought no one was listening, Helen murmured, "The kitchen layout is quite cleverly arranged." May, working nearby, carried the unexpected compliment like a treasure. One afternoon, dark clouds suddenly gathered overhead. Through sheets of rain, May spotted movement near the unstable east scaffolding. Helen and 3 friends caught in the downpour during their daily inspection. A lightning strike shook the ground, and part of the scaffolding began to slip. Without hesitation, May grabbed a safety rope and ran toward the danger. Wind nearly knocked her off her feet as she navigated the increasingly unstable structure. "Stay still," she shouted above the storm. She helped each woman to safety, leaving Helen for last. As May reached for her, their eyes met through the curtain of rain. For a moment, all pretense dropped away, just 2 women in danger, one extending her hand to the other. "Take my hand, Helen," May said firmly. After a moment's hesitation, Helen reached out. May guided her across the treacherous gap to solid ground. "Soaking wet," May asked, "Are you all right?" Helen could only nod, words seemingly beyond her reach. The next day, Helen's friends arrived carrying flowers. "We can't thank you enough," one said. "Helen isn't here today, but she's grateful, even if she has trouble showing it." That weekend, May learned that Helen had hosted her women's club gathering. May's rescue had been the main topic. Alice couldn't stop praising you, Richard reported. She said, Helen, your daughter-in-law creates wonderful spaces. Everyone's coming to see her work. And how did Helen respond? May asked. She was quiet, then said, yes, she was quite brave during the storm. That night, alone in her late husband's study, Helen discovered an old journal. Her husband's handwriting filled the pages. A man's duty is to protect his family with his own hands. Helen watched lights glowing at the construction site where May had likely returned to work. Something shifted in her understanding. Perhaps protecting family isn't about the hands that do the work, she whispered, but the heart behind those hands. As the project neared completion, Richard found May checking measurements in the trailer. Helen is changing, he observed. I've known her 20 years, and I've never seen her react to anyone this way. May looked up skeptically. She still barely speaks to me. She's stubborn, proud. But she's also lonely. When Tom died, she lost her last real connection. Watching you work, I think she's beginning to understand something she missed before. For the first time, May considered Helen beyond their conflicts. Not just as an antagonist, but as a woman who had lost her son, who clung to traditions because they provided structure when grief threatened to consume everything. We all build walls to protect ourselves, May murmured. Some are just more visible than others. As the final touches were being made, golden hour sunlight streamed through tall windows, bathing the nearly completed house in amber light. May ran her hand along the curved banister she'd crafted from maple, feeling every grain beneath her fingers. Beside her, Emily diligently applied polish to the wood. Mom, this house is really beautiful, Emily said, gazing around with genuine admiration. May smiled at how the light caught the wood's surface. It's more than just lumber and nails. There's love in these walls, pain in these floors, hope in these ceilings. Everything we've been through, shaped into something that will stand. The front door opened quietly. May looked up, surprised to see Helen standing alone in the entryway, without her usual entourage of country club friends. Later that afternoon, Helen moved through the house with unusual reverence, running her fingers along the walls and examining the intricate crown molding. May and Emily exchanged glances but remained silent. May, you've put your soul into this house, haven't you? Helen's voice was softer than May had ever heard it. Startled by the genuine observation, May could only nod. Helen stopped suddenly at the decorative shelf in the entryway, bending to examine something underneath. What's this? May approached, seeing the small carving that had caught Helen's eye. T.M.E. Our initials, May explained. Tom, myself, and Emily. I place them somewhere hidden in every house I build. A blessing of sorts. Helen's fingers traced the letters, her eyes distant. May moved to the dining room and knelt beside a particular floorboard. Using a small tool, she carefully pried it up, revealing a hidden compartment containing a wooden box. There's more, May said, retrieving yellowed sketches, a house design drawn in 2 different hands, with notes scribbled in the margins. This was our dream, May explained, her voice catching. Tom and I drew it the year we married. We always planned to build our own home someday. Tears welled in Helen's eyes. I was wrong, she whispered, her voice trembling. All those things I said about women carpenters, about you bringing shame to the family. I hurt you terribly. She reached into her handbag, pulling out a folded paper. I found this in Tom's papers recently. May unfolded it to find Tom's familiar handwriting, reread Dad's journal today. He wrote about a man's hands protecting his family. Dad's hands were rough from work, but those hands kept us safe. May's hands are the same now. She's building protection for our new family with her own hands. Tears streamed down May's face. The silence between the women felt different now, not tense but healing, like a long-infected wound finally cleaned. May, Helen said suddenly, I want to buy this house. May's head snapped up. What? But your mansion. I'll sell it, Helen said decisively. I want to live here, with Tom's memory built into every corner. And, she hesitated, I'd like to be closer to you and Emily. If you'll have me. Emily bounded down the stairs, her expression a mixture of confusion and delight. Mom, that small room upstairs with the north-facing windows, did you design that for me? May smiled. I thought if you ever wanted to study architecture, you'd need a proper workspace with good light. Emily crossed the room and embraced her mother fiercely. Thank you, she whispered. Helen watched them, a gentle smile transforming her usually stern face. 3 generations of women under one roof, she mused. What a wonderful thought. At the completion ceremony, the lawn was filled with people, contractors, neighbors, friends, and local builders. After Richard's brief introduction, Helen Walker approached the microphone. A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. Helen beckoned May and Emily to join her. Standing between them, she addressed the gathering with a clear voice. This house was built by my daughter-in-law, she began. When she first chose this profession, I couldn't understand. A woman becoming a carpenter seemed inappropriate. She paused. I was wrong. Building a house isn't merely construction, it's creating a vessel for love and memories. Helen reached for May's hand. With these hands, she has breathed new life into our family. I couldn't be prouder. Warm applause swept across the lawn. Through tears, May found Frank standing at the back, his quiet smile saying everything words couldn't. 2 years later, spring sunshine warmed the wide porch of Helen's home, the house May had built. May sat with blueprints spread across her lap as Emily rushed out waving an envelope. Mom. I got accepted to the architecture program. May embraced her daughter, pride swelling in her chest. But I've been thinking, Emily continued seriously, I want to create more places like this house. Maybe I should work with you first, learn hands-on before starting college. Before May could answer, Helen appeared carrying lemonade. I finally understand, she said softly. Your work isn't just about building structures, it's about giving people the strength to rebuild their lives. Setting down the tray, she added, several of my friends are interested in renovations suited to aging in place. I could introduce you. Thank you, May said warmly. I'd appreciate that. As evening approached, Frank arrived with plans for their next project. Walking beneath the cherry tree, he observed, Emily has your eye for detail. And your determination. They fell into comfortable silence, watching the sunset. You've built something remarkable here, Frank said finally. Not just the structure. But a family, May finished softly. Frank's weathered hand found hers. This time, either pulled away. That night, the 3 women gathered around the table May and Emily had crafted. Conversation flowed easily, laughter filling the room. Helen raised her wine glass. To our new family. And to adventures yet to come, May added. Emily joined with a grin. To future homes. Later, May stood alone under a sky brilliant with stars. We did it, Tom, she whispered. Our dream came true. This house holds your memory, my heart, and Emily's future. She examined her hands in the moonlight, once soft, now strong and marked with honest scars. There are invisible growth rings in these walls, like the trees that became them. Shaped by tools, yet standing straight and true. Like wood. Like life. The beautiful house with lights glowing in 3 windows, not just a building, but a testament to healing and reconciliation, standing peaceful in the gathering night.